What do we know about the details, if any, on the back of these discussions?
Well, Tom, they were thrashed out over many, many hours yesterday. The talks went all through the day and into the night as well. The US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent having to leave early because he had to get back to Washington to testify in Congress. But they got back round the table. Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, and the US Trade Representative Jamieson Greer emerging finally, as you heard there, to announce that they had reached a plan, a preliminary plan that, as you say, now needs to be taken back to the country's respective leaders, President Xi and President Trump. So what's in that plan? Well, as you heard there, essentially China is going to send more rare earths to the US, and in exchange the US is going to roll back some of the export controls that it had introduced in retaliation since the Geneva Agreement. And they're presenting this as a framework for implementing that Geneva Agreement. It's not a framework that we can see, but the idea is to try and rebuild trust. That has been the whole point of these talks in London, that trust having been eroded since Geneva. But the question is, what if this relationship breaks down again? And crucially, they haven't got more meetings in the diary yet, according to Greer. So it very much looks like we're not out of the woods yet, Tom.
Can we claim a victor in these conversations? Which side came out better than the other, or was it pretty equally matched?
Well, the markets, at least, seem to think that maybe it's China that is the victor here. You talk through what's happening in the markets. The immediate reaction was the yuan inching higher and US equity futures pointing lower. But I think if we look back through these meetings in London and indeed through the past few weeks since the Geneva Agreement, a crucial conclusion is just how important export controls are in modern trade warfare. Yes, tariffs are Donald Trump's favourite word, and indeed the court ruling in the US is that he can proceed on that front. But Beijing has well demonstrated how an economy can use export controls to gain leverage over its rivals. Now, the US is seeking all sorts of trade deals with other countries at the moment: India, Japan, South Korea, and a range of others. But President Xi Jinping's also been on the phone. He was speaking to the president, the newly elected president of South Korea, as well. So this is not over yet. In terms of the US-China relationship, now we look for a grand deal to come. But as we know from phase one in the Trump administration's first term, these things can take a very long time to hash out. That was 18 months in the making. So we're in it for the long haul now, Tom.